add Airmaster with Open Metadata as well. So Irfan and Alejandro will be staying on if you have any questions about some of the use cases that they've identified for Open Metadata MCP or anything about their experiences in using Open Metadata. But with that, we're going to turn to Pere, and he's going to provide more options to get improve your AI agents by leveraging Open Metadata.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Irfan and Alejandro, for the explanation. There's actually quite a few bridges with what we're going to be talking now. So happy for the continuity. Let me start with a bit of a recap on where we are, right, as an industry, because every company is on a race trying to build their own agentic systems and agentic applications because all the tooling is there, right? LLMs are great at reasoning or sophisticated pattern matching. But when we are trying to make this reasoning exhibition happen around your data, LLMs get lost because they don't really know your data. They don't get about your schemas, your lineage, your transformations, or your organizational knowledge and your organizational language. So the question is, okay, how do we jump this gap between the LLMs, between these agents, and all of the rich semantics and informations that we have in our data world? Just by leveraging open metadata, and all of the metadata agents, lineage agents, the glossaries, the metrics, the data quality rules, basically all of the open metadata features, you are already holding all of these ingredients that the LLMs are lacking. So by using the MCP server, you can start feeding them to your agentic applications. So as you know, Open Metadata MCP runs embedded inside the Open Metadata server. So there's no extra infra, no sidecar, no overall added maintenance for you to start using the Open Metadata MCP. Also, it uses the standard MCP protocols, which means that it's fully compatible with any clients. You can use Claude, as the team here was showing with the Claude skills. You can directly hook it up to Cursor. You can use Goose. Any kind of MCP client can talk with the Open Metadata MCP. And finally, and most importantly, is on the security side, because Open Metadata brings this enterprise-ready security by respecting the already existing RBAC rules, which means that users are going to be able to authenticate via their personal access token. So it's me, the same user that is interacting via the UI or via the APIs, is the same user that will be interacting via the MCP. So I'm going to be able to follow the same permission model. With release 1.12, we have applied all of the community's feedback about streamlining the tool parameters, the descriptions, reducing the token consumption, and we've actually gone one step further by giving new tools such as the creation of lineage, in order that it's going to help you create data quality tests, and even a separate tool that it's going to help you with all of these root cause analysis of data quality failures. Moreover, we are also giving Open Metadata users now the ability to use semantic search. You can enable that in 1.12 just by changing the Open Metadata configuration and giving the Open Metadata server the right permissions in order to access either the Bedrock embedding models, OpenAI embedding models, or directly downloading and using Hugging Face embedding models. What's interesting here is how the semantic search actually empowers users that are starting their exploration journey. Because while keyword search is a powerful mechanism, it does require certain level of matching the names, matching the descriptions, matching the columns. But if you're just starting your exploration, you might not really know what to find. So instead, semantic search will be leveraging the existing indexing capabilities of the platform. So you don't really need to have any further maintenance overhead of these indexes. If you have enabled that in the configuration, it's just going to happen transparently for you. The only difference is that now these indexes will also hold this embedding that will enable you to use this semantic search via in this case, via the MCP. So just to illustrate a bit the difference, if I come here to Goose and I say, hey, do we have any client data in my JFL shop database? It's going to say, I'm using the normal keyword search and it's not really finding anything. But if I just try to force the hand a bit here and say, okay, let's try again, but in this case, use semantic search, say how it's finding, for example, my customers table. This would not happen in keyword search. It's really not a one-to-one match with my query that is about clients, and even less if we're talking about name, which would be a keyword here. Instead, what this is leveraging is the meaning of the data. It's actually able to figure out, okay, this person is not asking me about customers, but it's giving me a related term. It's giving me a synonym. So semantically, all of these items are going to be very, very similar. So it's able to actually give back these responses. Another interesting thing that we are introducing just with this release is the new AI SDK. And the main goal here is to help you to easily build and bring the semantics and relationships of open metadata into your agentic systems. And in order to illustrate that, I would like to start with an example here. So let's imagine that I'm making some modifications to a couple of DPT models. I go ahead, I understand what I need to do, change it, I test it locally. Looks like the new model is created. I'm just going to create a PR. And this might actually seem like a very vanilla change. Well, I'm just adding maybe a new column here, maybe rounding some computations that made or did not make sense at the beginning, but really just very, very, very small changes to a couple of my models. So if you have some expertise that can come here and can analyze your data landscape, they might actually be able to help uncover some upcoming issues if I were to actually just go and merge these changes. So in this traditional world, in this traditional sense, we would be going by hand. Someone opens this PR, I just try to pull and ping the rest of my team in order for them to come here and start giving me some validations. And best case scenario, some senior team member comes and says, maybe this is impacting something. Let's take it a bit deeper because they learned about taking care of the dependencies the hard way. And in the worst case scenario, few dashboards will be dead until I go ahead and I create a hotfix. But in the world of AI and with all of these super rich semantics, relationships, and information that I have in open metadata, I can actually automate this analysis. In this case, I have an LLM that it's taking this change, it's reviewing it automatically for me, and it's not only just taking into consideration the diff that I'm bringing into the model, it's actually able to then start cross-checking all of this information that I have in my open metadata deployment so that it's going to help me figure out what might break. So if we just try to analyze this a bit, it's going to give me, okay, these are the changes that you are making. There are few tables and dashboards that are going to be impacted. There's going to be some business impact. Some financial reporting might just drift in the numbers. Something might be off there. I would recommend you take the phone, talk to Alice. She is one of the stakeholders on the downstream assets. So this process that would have taken me or some of my senior team members some manual checking, even if the data catalog is there, even if that information is already there, someone has to go, someone has to check, someone has to react to this change. Instead, by plugging in the LLMs with the MCP, in this case with an automation in a GitHub action, I can streamline all of this process and I can move ahead. Now, we started building open metadata and all of these systems with two major pillars, right? One, we said, okay, let's use JSON schema so that I can define a language that helps us standardize how we talk about metadata and how we talk about and how we define company semantics. And the second part is that we are building this API first service as the transport layer of this language. However, how applications are being built is changing fast, right? There's this rise of the LLMs and the ingesting systems. So REST APIs might not be the basic communication protocol between systems going forward, but actually these will continue to evolve through natural language, empowering this agent-to-agent communication. And we have kept hearing more and more from other companies and from the open metadata community about people building agentic applications around open metadata. So we are super stoked to introduce the AI SDK as the building block that will help you create and compose all these agentic systems. So the good thing, or thanks to this AI SDK, is that this application can actually be built with just a few lines of code. In this case, I'm just using LangChain here in order to create one agent hooked to ChatGPT. And I'm saying, okay, I'm going to connect you to open metadata with via my environment variables, and I'm going to give you the right MCP tools to finish the job. In this case, I want to analyze impact analysis. No? So there's at least three things that I need to be able to do. I need to be able to search my metadata, get the right entity details, and finally navigate and understand the lineage relationships between my assets. So once I've been able to do that, I can just pass whatever system prompt. In this case, I'm saying, hey, you're an impact analysis assistant. Your job is to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of steps. And I can just hook this up, put it as a part of my GitHub actions. So all of this reviewing process is going to happen automatically, powered by open metadata and powered by this AI SDK. Now, something that we also need to take into consideration is that when we are building and deploying agentic systems, it's not always straightforward. There's a few pieces that we need to take into account, such as the LLM provider. Which one do I pick? How do I manage the keys? How do I check the rate limits, the budgeting, etc., etc.? I also need to figure out the internal system that it's going to be powering my agents. How do I wire the MCP tools? How do I define the internal graph behavior and the hubs, how the tools are being executed? I also need to take care of the prompt engineering. How do I define the persona that it's, in this case, analyzing my impact? How do I tune the right description so that the right tool is being called at the right place? I also need to take care of the security. There's frameworks such as OAuth that actually help you, for example, ensure that your agents only do what they are allowed to do, or that help you make sure that at the right point in time, we're going to be able to keep the human in the loop. And we can then talk about infra, the scaling, the monitoring, the conversation, the memory management, etc., etc., etc. Or another possibility would be, okay, let's try to think as well on how I can build these systems, how I can create these agentic applications via Collate and via the new AI Studio. Now, before jumping there, I also wanted to give kind of a brief recap on the AI capabilities that Collate brings on the table so far. Something that we presented a few releases ago is Collate, right? It's this conversational AI that helps us manage, understand, and govern all of our data. With it, I can say, okay, let's start my exploration. I want to search for some tables that might me help figure out my use case here. So I want to get my customer data in Redshift. I will get some examples. It's going to help me try to understand, but maybe I say, okay, I give up. I don't want to start with the tables. Just give me the average revenue. That's actually what I wanted to do all along. I just wanted to get the right metric, the right solution, and get some numbers out so I can continue with my analysis. So I'm going to ask it, hey, just give me the right average revenue. And then what Collate it's going to do behind the scenes is say, okay, I'm going to figure out what's the right table. I'm also going to figure out if there's any context in my platform that's helping me figure out how do we define customer tier. So in this case, I'm lucky enough, okay, I have a metric already there in the platform that is defining me how customer tier should behave. So the LLM doesn't need to hallucinate. I don't need to make it up either. The agent, as Collate in this case, is able to automatically figure out, I understand your intent. I'm double checking this information with what you already have in Collate. let's move on. Let's try to create the query. If it messes up, it corrects itself until it's giving me the right results. It's giving me the visualization to help me understand what's going on with the data. But then, not only that, right? I'm able to discover my metadata. I'm able to chat directly with my data and get all of these results cross-validated with the metrics that we already have in the platform. But then what about my glossaries? Because here I'm talking about something that seems quite important, right? Customer tier. It's very good that we already have a metric, but how can we do the next step from a governance perspective? Okay, do we have any glossaries that are talking about customers? As Collate is going to give me some of the answers, and then I can say, okay, let's just take this customer glossary and create a couple of terms based on the inputs, on the insights that we're uncovering from the conversation. So yes, let's create the customer tier, let's create the occasional customer. It's going to give me these glossary terms, and then I can go ahead, inspect my table a bit more, and even go tag at this glossary term so that whenever I come here in the future, I can understand, I can figure out this data faster. Then in Collate, we already had other agents outside of us Collate. We had some agents that were helping us to create descriptions, add tags, create data quality tests to our assets. And in the release 1.12, we are now giving full visibility into these agents. This is the main goal of the AI Studio. Now I can see the internals of all of these agents that I have in my platform. So in this case, I can come and I can check how the documentation agent is built. I can understand its behavior. I can understand its personality. So I see that it's actually based on a data steward persona that we're offering out of the box, which has certain responsibilities, certain expertise areas that helps me already figure out, okay, is this the right behavior based on my needs for this documentation agent? I can also see the skills that this agent is going to be able to do. In this case, documentation, I just wanted to be able to patch columns or add descriptions, right? So I'm going to give it only the metadata management abilities. And finally, I can also see what actions, what prompt is this agent actually going to execute when it's called from within the platform. Now, let's imagine that my company is in Spain, right? And I want actually this agent to be able to generate the descriptions in Spanish. So I can go ahead, I can edit this agent, update the prompt to say, hey, important, let me go to the bottom, generate the description in Spanish. I can save and I can move on. The next time that this agent is going to be executed, the prompt will already been updated. Now, so not only that, not only I can come in the AI Studio and I can understand and dig into my existing agents, I can actually go ahead and say, well, I have other needs. I'm not only about updating documentation or updating my tiers. I might have similar needs like this one. Like maybe I want to create an agent that helps me analyze the impact of my changes. So the way that I would do that directly in my AI Studio is I can create a new agent, give it a name, specific description. I can select this persona. Basically, I can figure out what should be the internal behavior. And I can either choose some of the personas that we are bringing out of the box or just create a new one from the AI Studio page as well. Create it. Sorry, I already gave the name, Demo Agent 2. Select the persona. I go ahead. Now I can actually choose these skills that we were talking, these abilities. So depending on my use case, my agent should be able to maybe search for the data, but I don't want this agent to be confused about data quality. So I'm not going to select this, and I'm going to give it, for example, the ability to create and run SQL queries so that I can finally give it a default prompt that it's going to be executed whenever this agent is being called. And super important, the bot that it's going to be impersonating this agent. As you know, in Collate and in OpenMetadata, we have this concept of bots. You can think of them as service accounts. So these accounts are going to have permissions as any other user in the platform. So there's different ways that you can actually add the guardrails on these agents that you are creating, either by this pick and choose list of the abilities that we were just showing, as well as adding the right roles and policies to the bots that are going to be used when defining these agents. So if we take this power of the AI Studio that it helps me organize these agents, and I go back to my AI SDK, you can see how this transformation from REST API communication to natural language via for this agent-to-agent communication happens. Because with this AI SDK, I can quickly connect to my Collate environment, pass my token so that I can actually use it, and say, okay, I'm going to take, in this case, the data quality planner agent, and I'm going to ask it something. And this agent is going to be executed within Collate, choose the right tools for the job, and give me a response right away. So with this SDK, we are giving the SDK in Python, in TypeScript, and in Java. And there is also a handy little CLI for you to start playing around just to tune a bit or to even create and manage decisions via the CLI as well. Then, just to finish, I also want to show you what's possible to create on top of this AI SDK. So as you know, I can go into my Collate deployment, and we have, there we go. And we have these alerts. So in this case, I have created a data quality alert so that every time that there's a test that fails, I want to be notified. In a traditional sense, I might receive an email, I might get a Slack saying something broke, you go, you figure it out. Now, with this agentic world, I can directly hook up a webhook so that I have here my NA10 flow that's going to receive this alert. It's going to parse the contents of this event when a test case failed, and it's going to call an agent that I have configured in my AI SDK NA10 node, giving me my table FQN, the test, what's going on with the failure. Here I have just configured NA10 to connect to my Collate instance. I'm passing it a message, and this is going to be able to parse all of this response and send it here. Let me just make it a bit bigger. Send this curated result directly in Slack so that, again, I don't need to start from scratch. I have an automation in place built on top of our AI SDK that it's going to reduce the impact analysis time, the debugging, the root cause analysis time a ton, because all the ingredients are already there. And now with the power of LLMs and with the power of the AI SDK, we can streamline all of these processes that just before were taking your expert humans a bunch of hours to solve. And with that, Nick, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pere. That was amazing. And those demos that you were showing, like the AI SDK, when is that available?
The SDK repository is already open.
Yes.
And if you are using Collate 1.12, you will be able to start playing with the with the AI Studio. Or if you're using the MCP in Collate or in OpenMetadata, you can start using that as well.
Great. Thank you.